Good morning, Marijuana Nation. It's Friday, September 8th, 2017, and you're tuned in to episode 326 of Marijuana Today Daily. I'm your host, Shay Gunther, and I'll be walking you through today's marijuana news and headlines. As always, we have a full and busy day of cannabis news in our hands, so let's jump right into it. Our top story of the day is the news that Donald Trumpite and white supremacist Roger Stone has announced that he will be suing the organizers of the Cannabis World Congress and Business Expo for $1 million after being dumped as a keynote speaker at two of the organization's upcoming conferences. We've reported on this story a number of times over the past few weeks as activists within the industry rose up to condemn the planned speeches by Mr. Stone, who, besides espousing a racist and misogynist worldview, also happens to think that weed should be legal. In addition to the lawsuit, Mr. Stone also reportedly told BuzzFeed News that his supporters would be showing up to the expo at which he was supposed to speak and, quote, will fuck them up, unquote. Pennsylvania State Auditor General Eugene DePasquale has published an op-ed in the Philadelphia Inquirer calling on his state to fully legalize marijuana in a bid to cut down on their pending budget shortfall. In a piece heavy with numbers and financial projections, Mr. DePasquale makes a measured and pragmatic case for why Pennsylvania should further reform its cannabis laws, writing, quote, I make this recommendation because it is a more sane policy to deal with the critical financial issues facing the state. Other states are already taking advantage of the opportunity for massive job creation and significant savings from reduced arrests and criminal prosecutions for possession of small amounts of marijuana. In addition, it would generate hundreds of millions of dollars each year that could help tackle Pennsylvania's long-term budget problems, unquote. This is a good one to open up and read and to share around. Positive financial projections are hard to argue with. Our final top story of the day brings us up north to Canada, where yesterday licensed medical marijuana company Canopy Growth announced that it would be doubling its total cultivation capacity in anticipation of rising demand as their country works towards nationwide adult use legalization next year. Canopy Growth CEO Bruce Linton said his company would be spending at least $25 million Canadian, or around $21 million US, on expanding one of its cultivation centers to add 450,000 square feet of indoor growing space to the 350,000 square feet it currently has. The company is also building a 200,000 square foot greenhouse facility that will be online soon. Linton said the build-out is part of their plan to look beyond Canada, with their expectation that at least half of their business will be overseas within 3 years. I've said it many times, I'm sure I'll be saying it many more, but they're doing things big up in Canada, and we should really be paying attention to how it's being done. Those are our top stories for today. It's time for Marijuana Today Daily Headlines Blitz. Before we blitz on in headlines, let's quickly thank our sponsor, MJ Today Media, publishers of the MJ Today Media newsfeed email newsletter, as well as this podcast and our weekly show, Marijuana Today, which brings together our regular cast of industry and activist badasses who really parse the week's handful of super important legal cannabis stories. Between this podcast and Marijuana Today, you'll be fully caught up on all the important things you need to know while having a solid grasp on the background stuff that got us here. Find links to all the things we're doing over at mjtodaymedia.com. That's mjtodaymedia.com. All right, time for the Blitz. Christopher Ingraham over at the Washington Post has a great story up highlighting some of the main takeaways from a recently released government report showing that the marijuana usage rates for American teens has dropped to its lowest levels in 20 years, with just 6.5% of adolescents ages 12 to 17 reporting using cannabis on a monthly basis, down from a high of just under 10% in the late 90s. Swing over to Christopher's piece for all the numbers on this one. As always, we have all the news we cover linked to on our website at mjtodaydaily.com and on our Twitter account at mjtodaydaily. As the state of Massachusetts works towards implementing full adult use legalization next year, regional planning commissions within the state are working on rules for towns and local municipalities, but are waiting on state officials to get their regulatory ducks in a row before making any final decisions. State regulations are supposed to be set by the middle of next March, and in the meantime, Larry Smith, a land use planner for the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, told Mass Live that he thinks the smartest thing for towns to do is to enact moratoriums on adopting any kind of adult use marijuana rules through December of 2018. California state lawmakers are proposing legislation that would allow marijuana cultivators and dispensers to co-locate, including medical shops and adult use providers, which come with separate licensing structures. The bill's language would also remove the current restrictions on medical marijuana manufacturers that can only create product for the medical market. The state of Kentucky recently received a report from a consultancy it had hired to study solutions to their deep and long-term budget crisis, and Governor Matt Bevin isn't too excited about some of the proposed ideas, taking a special umbrage to the idea that Kentucky could save and make a lot of money by legalizing marijuana. When asked in an interview with WHAS Radio about the idea of legalizing marijuana to help with the budget shortfall, Governor Bevin said, quote, "It's not going to happen while I'm governor." Unquote. Voters of Kentucky, you know what to do. Los Angeles City Councilman Marquise Harris Dawson has introduced a plan to the City Council to create a pilot program focused on getting minorities involved in the legal cannabis industry as owners and operators of licensed businesses. His ideas include setting up a cannabis business incubator for people of color, as well as pushing the state for further social justice reforms in the realm of marijuana policy. This is a good one to open up and read in full. Swinging back up to my neck of the woods here in Maine, we have news that local activist Paul McCarrier was turned away from entering Canada while on vacation with his girlfriend after border agents found record of his arrest during a 2018 protest against President Bush in Minnesota, as well as business cards detailing his work as a pro-marijuana activist. McCarrier is president of Legalize, Maine, a nonprofit organization that helped push last fall's adult use ballot measure through to success. And finally for today, we have my buddy Tom Angel swapping out his journalist hat for his activist chapeau and decrying the blockage of the U.S. House Rules Committee of the Rohrabacher-Farr Amendment, the piece of vital federal legislation that protects state legal marijuana from the ravenous, slavering jaws of Attorney General and Prohibitionist Jeff Sessions. Tom issued a statement to the Daily Caller that characterized the political chicanery employed by Republican leadership in shutting out the protective measure as, quote, dirty legislative tricks, unquote. This is another excellent one to dive into, if only to get the full measure of Tom's disapproval. Those are the headlines and news for the day. I'll be back with you again Monday morning with another information-packed episode of Marijuana Today Daily. But in the meantime, if you have any stories to share or feedback to give, zip us an email to headlines@mjtodaydaily.com. And while you're clicking around the interwebs, swing over to our Twitter account at mjtodaydaily and visit our website at mjtodaydaily.com to find links to all the news we cover. Thanks to our sponsor, MJ Today Media, and to all of our awesome Patreon listeners for the support that makes this show possible. To join the illustrious ranks of the Patreon listeners yourself, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com and click on that big blue button at the top of the page that says Become a Patron. I'm your host, Shay Gunther. Thanks for tuning in and starting your day with marijuana today.
One take, Shay. One take.